One play many ways is a very widely proclaimed best practice when it comes to offensive football. But if you ever hear Sean McVay or any play callers that have branched off of his tree talk about their offense, they talk more about the illusion of complexity instead. In my opinion, the illusion of complexity takes one play many ways to the next level. And in this video, we're going to see how. Let's dive in. So to me, one play many ways carries the idea of having multiple ways to run the same plays. And these could be out of multiple personnel groupings, multiple shifts, formations, motions, even varying tempo or being able to tag certain parts of plays. But the illusion of complexity really expands on that. If we just think about definitions of illusion and complexity, the idea here is that we want to make the defense think that we are more complicated than we actually are. We're not actually going to be complex because we're going to run those same few plays that we would in a one play many ways situation. But what adds the illusion of that complexity is that each play is also going to look like multiple other plays that each probably also carry a different point of attack. So the defense can't just see what they're presented with and overload a certain area because they know where the point of attack is going to be. And I actually think we can use baseball as a pretty powerful example of that idea here. So we have an overlay right here. So we're going to see two pitches happen at once, and we're going to see how they attack different parts of the strike zone. So this is Roki Sasaki, new Dodgers pitcher, and we can see where both of these pitches end up. But look at where they are right here. So these pitches are somewhere probably between a third and halfway to home plate, and they are centimeters apart from each other. They are so close, the hitter has to see that and still recognize what type of pitch it is. I mean, yes, they can see spin and different things like that, but the ball is in almost the exact same place for a significant period of time on its way to the plate. And again, see where these pitches are ending up, totally polar opposite ends of the strike zone. Not to mention that there's a 10-mile-an-hour difference, a 9-mile-an-hour difference in between the two pitches. But all of that break happens about halfway between the pitcher's mound and home plate. So just like football, this is an environment where a player has to make a decision in less than a second. And because these two pitches can look very similarly for such a significant amount of time, the amount of time the hitter actually has to react to that is extremely smaller than if the pitches were headed straight to their destination. Because they look so similar for so long into the pitch, it's very hard to tell that difference. So taking that context, that idea, and applying it to football, we're going to kind of take a look at the two different extremes. And the first extreme would be only running specific plays out of specific looks or presentations to the defense. And this was an extremely popular offensive look about 3 to 5 years ago. Got a single receiver to the boundary, twins to the field, and a sniffer somewhere in the backfield. And what I've seen so often is that when the two backs, the fullback and the running back, the halfback here, are split, meaning that they're on different sides of the quarterback, a lot of times that meant power. We're going to kick out, wrap through, and hinge on the backside. If the two backs were stacked, then the offense would most likely be running counter. And this train of thought worked almost without fail. This would basically be baseball's equivalent of the pitcher tipping his pitches. Before the ball is even snapped or before the pitch is even thrown, the defense, the hitter, knows exactly what's coming because of how it was presented or something in the presentation gave it away. So taking a look at the other extreme, we're trying to hide our play for as long as possible. Here we're in a cluster, which is a nub trips bunch. And going into a game, we would have a few plays we like out of this look. Then we would also have a few plays that we like if we would bring the F across into a strong side wing. And then let's say we take the Z and put him in flight motion across the formation. So out of this look, we can run wide zone. And here we're running it to a 4-man surface. By the time the fullback gets over there, we've got a 4-man surface and a lead blocker with the Z. Not to mention we have shifted from a 1-by-3 formation to a 3-by-1. Maybe they start to over-rotate to the double motion, and instead of running wide zone strong, we want to run GT counter weak. We could do it a few different ways. We could take the tight end and fullback and the Z and all kind of lead block for a quarterback read. If we were going to read the backside defensive end, running back run the counter, quarterback have 3 lead blockers. Or if we don't want to read it, we could hinge the tight end and the fullback and just make it a straight handoff. But what we have also preserved here is that this can still look the same as the wide zone play if we can get the defense's eyes away from the guards. The quarterback is still opening up to the strong side. The running back still takes his first steps to the strong side. So with the 2 motions, with the same side backfield action, if we can get the defense's eyes and the defense's feet moving to the strong side, we should have them significantly out-leveraged here to the weak side with 2 offensive linemen pulling from the backside as extra blockers. But we don't want it to all be run game, right? We want to be balanced. We can bring the fullback across here and run a keeper with the quarterback. I like to bring the fullback to the backside. Defensive ends in high school are untrustworthy. They might chase down the backside one play and then for no reason at all just sit up and be accidentally in the perfect spot to sack the quarterback on the keeper. So we always want to have an extra man for him, but the fullback here would sift but the fullback here would be faking split zone, but actually trying to get the outside shoulder of his man. He would leak out into the flat late. X here would have the corner. Y would have the cross. Then our Z would have a backside basic. The post is also an option on the backside, but the basic I feel like is easier way to get him involved late in the play if something breaks down. Running back here would pick up anything coming off the play side edge and then turn that into a wheel that we can alert later if the defense brings the corner over behind the Z. But again, what have we presented to the defense? 2 motions looking the same, and everybody's still initial first steps should tell everybody wide zone. But it doesn't even all have to be run action. We can run quite a few drop back passes out of this presentation as well. One of my favorites would be Y sail. So the Z with his flight motion is going to get a head start into his blazer route, which is a go post option. Since it's Y sail, the Y is going to be the one on the sail route, and the F is going to be in the flat. Sail would have a 6-man protection with a basic over, so we can high load the backside inside linebacker if we get cover 2. Maybe we want to run a 5-man protection instead. We can bring the fullback on a shallow and get the running back straight into the flat. We have the same progression for the quarterback, 1, 2, 3, deep to sail to flat, and we still have that high-low on the backside linebacker. Again, against cover 2, we can throw the basic or the shallow. Maybe we want to run a drop back pass and attack the weak side of the formation. We can run a cross concept instead of sail. And this is great because the Z with his motion is going to take a lot of eyes with him. And if we've run sail a couple times and we take this release, now instead of running his blazer, he's going to snap that off to be our backside basic, backside dig route. The X now would have the play side blazer, Y would have the cross, and then the F would have the shallow if we wanted to run a 6-man protection. If we wanted to run a 5-man protection, then the F could have the grab route, and we could put the H into the flat. Either way, just like sail, same read. We've got deep to sail to flat. Then we have a backside high-low that we can activate against cover 2. So off of the base play, we can run wide zone to the strong side, 4-man surface with a lead blocker. We can run GT to the weak side, even if we open up the same way as we would have if it were wide zone. We can run a keeper off the wide zone, and we can run 5- and 6-man protections to the strong and weak side of the formation. Just from this presentation, the defense should have no clue what's coming. What makes this even better, though, is it doesn't always have to be out of this cluster with the double motions. By the time we motion the F over and the Z over, we can run the exact same things out of this formation. We brought our F over on the fax motion from the backside. We brought our Z over on the flight motion, but we could break the huddle and line up just like this and run the exact same complement of plays. Or maybe we're going to break the huddle and put the fullback in the weak side wing, and now instead of running fax and Z flight, now we just have to run fax motion to get there. So what I want to have is a couple of formations that work together where we can get to the same players on the same side of the formation with 1 or 2 motions, and we can run the exact same plays out of each of those presentations. So maybe going into week 1, this is how I would run the 6-man protection Y cross concept. Bring the fullback on the shallow, the Z would be on the basic here, and the running back would be in the protection. If I wanted to run this concept in week 1, I would run it out of this formation. Maybe it's week 1 and I want the 5-man concept in. Maybe we break the huddle in the tight end wing, and instead of motioning, we just get to go straight there from the huddle. Then maybe in week 2, we flip that. So boiling it down, what we really have is a bunch of plays that I like out of this formation. Now, how many different ways can I get to this formation so I can activate those plays? And how many plays can I run before we get to that point? So what I mean by that is we might break the huddle like this. I'm also going to have plays that I like out of this formation. Out of this formation, I have a 3-man surface to either side that I can run wide zone to, which means I can also run a keeper to either side. I can still run a 5-man protection sail concept, a 6-man protection sail concept, a 5 and 6-man protection cross concepts as well. So just because we line up like this doesn't mean we can't snap the ball. That's how these formations work together, is we should be able to break the huddle and snap the ball. We should be able to motion 1 player and snap the ball. We should be able to motion 2 players and snap the ball, all while being able to run the same complement of plays from the same positional groupings. But that's how these formations all work together. We always have to be able to present the threat of snapping the ball. So kind of getting back to our weak side cluster here, we have the idea of one play many ways, in that we can run the exact same play from 4 different formations, because we can line up in a formation and motion to get the same people in the same places. But if we don't just break the huddle that way, then that can hide that tendency from the defense. So that's kind of where the one play many ways aspect comes into it. But the illusion of complexity is that each of these plays looks like at least one other play for almost everybody at the snap, but we have different points of attack. So again, we could be running wide zone strong, GT counter weak. We could be running a keeper. We could run a strong side drop back concept. We could run a weak side drop back concept. It could be a 5-man or a 6-man protection to either side, but the defense has no clue just because of what they're given. We wouldn't run all of them from this look every single week. We would pick just a couple to run out of this formation this week. A couple different would be next week, but we'd be running the same plays, just getting to them different ways. So we're able to keep things consistent for our offensive players, and the defense doesn't know what's coming. And in my opinion, that is the definition of offensive balance. But if you want to know more about that, click on the screen and watch this next video.